She never asked for permission to take up space. From the beginning, Sophie Cunningham walked into every room, every court, every conversation like she had earned the right to be there, because she had. Her journey was never built on spectacle. It wasn't cushioned by hype or protected by legacy. What she had, instead, was fire, raw, unapologetic, beautiful fire. The kind that doesn't just fuel you, it defines you. And as she grew, through every challenge, every moment of doubt, every missed shot or misunderstood headline, that fire never dimmed. It only got sharper, cleaner, more dangerous. Because while the world asked her to tone it down, to fit in, to ease up, Sophie Cunningham was busy building something real. Not a brand. Not an image. A life. A game. A legacy. She was born in Columbia, Missouri. Not exactly the mecca of pro basketball, but the kind of place where roots run deep and values get passed down with every conversation around the dinner table. Columbia didn't just shape her. It raised her. With structure. With spirit. With competition woven into daily life. She wasn't born with a golden ticket. She was born with a target on her back and a chip on her shoulder. And from the earliest years, you could feel it in her movements. That need to prove herself. Not just once, but always. It started in driveways. In backyards. With older siblings and scraped knees and games that didn't end until somebody stormed off crying. It started with coaches who told her she was too much. With teammates who couldn't always match her intensity. With a girl who didn't want to be cute or passive or palatable. She wanted to win. And when she committed to basketball, she didn't flirt with it, she married it. She gave it everything. Her time. Her focus. Her body. Her belief. And the sport, in turn, gave her a stage. Rockbridge High School saw her coming before most people did. It was there that Sophie started to stretch out into something bigger than just a high school star. She wasn't just dominant, she was magnetic. State titles came. Accolades piled up. But what made her different wasn't the numbers, it was the attitude. Sophie played like the game owed her nothing, and like she was ready to take everything. She didn't apologize for how hard she played, how loud she got, or how far she was willing to go to protect her teammates. She was already forming the blueprint that would carry her through every level of the sport. When the college offers poured in, she could have left. Could have chosen a spotlight city or a historic program with more national shine. But Sophie didn't chase flash. She chased meaning. She stayed home. She became a Missouri Tiger because Columbia had built her, and she wasn't done giving back. That choice was bigger than basketball. It was loyalty. And it was the first of many moments where Sophie showed the world that she wasn't interested in being anyone else's version of success. She was building her own. At the University of Missouri, she became a force of nature. She led the team in scoring. She redefined the program's identity. She created a homegrown legend in real time. And while her stat lines kept growing, so did her impact. Kids wore her number. Parents pointed her out to their daughters in the stands. She was the fire starter, the one who dove into contact, talked back to defenders, and raised the level of everyone around her. And when the lights got brighter, she didn't shrink. She flexed. But Sophie's journey was never just about shine. It was about work. It was about the weight of expectation. It was about being told over and over again to tone it down, and deciding every single time not to. She faced critics who called her aggressive, who questioned her composure, who misread her passion as something else. But she kept showing up, kept shooting, kept leading. She stayed at Missouri all 4 years, an increasingly rare choice for top athletes, because she believed in finishing what she started. And when she finally stepped off that court for the last time, she left as one of the most decorated, influential, and unforgettable players in Mizzou history. The 2019 WNBA draft didn't crown her with fanfare. She was taken 13th overall, technically a second-round pick. And for some, that number defines potential. But for Sophie, it only defined fuel. Phoenix took her, and she arrived with the same fire she'd always had, but now it had sharper teeth. She came into the league ready to work, not wait. She wasn't there to fill space. She was there to take it. The Phoenix Mercury, already filled with stars and legacy players, didn't need someone to score 30 out of the gate. They needed someone who could grind, who could lead without asking, who could bring energy, edge, and accountability. Sophie became that player. The one who guarded the toughest assignments, who took the hit no one else wanted, who drew the charge in the final minute. She wasn't just a spark, she was a fuse. And when 2022 came, and the Mercury needed more from her, she delivered. Not just effort, but explosion. She became a starter, a scorer, a problem for opposing defenses. Game after game, she showed that she wasn't just tough, she was talented. Three-pointers, transitions, late-game plays that flipped outcomes. Suddenly, the league wasn't talking about her hustle. They were talking about her impact. She wasn't a side note. She was essential. But basketball was only part of the story. Off the court, Sophie found her voice, and made sure it was heard. In a league filled with leaders, activists, and changemakers, Sophie carved her own space. She talked about the game's inequalities, about the way women's sports are dismissed, doubted, and diminished. She spoke about faith, about mental health, about standing up for herself in a world that would rather she sit down. She tweeted, she posted, she clapped back, and through it all, she stayed Sophie. Not everyone agreed with her. Not everyone liked her style. But no one could deny her honesty. And that, in a world so often filtered and rehearsed, was more powerful than any buzzer beater. Sophie wore boots one day and Jordans the next. She quoted scripture before games and jawed with defenders once they started. She showed up with country strength and urban sharpness. She didn't play to one audience, she played for herself. For every kid who didn't fit the mold. For every athlete who was told to shrink their spirit. For every woman who was called too much for simply wanting to win. And that authenticity made her more than a role player. It made her a leader. Younger players looked up to her, not just because of what she said, but because of what she showed. That consistency, that grit, that refusal to compromise. She wasn't always the star on paper, but she was the center of gravity in every room she walked into. She made people feel seen, and heard, and supported. When Phoenix went through transitions, players leaving, coaches shifting, public controversies, Sophie stayed. Not out of comfort, but out of commitment. To her team, to the culture, to the fans who'd stood by her since day one. She could have walked. She could have chased easier opportunities. But she chose to rebuild, to reinvest. And that decision wasn't just professional, it was personal. Because at her core, Sophie Cunningham has always been about showing up. For her teammates, for her family, for her city, and for herself. She doesn't play for validation. She plays because it's in her blood. Because the game saved her, raised her, and challenged her in ways nothing else could. And through it all, she has become a symbol, not just of toughness, but of freedom. The freedom to be bold. The freedom to be real. The freedom to fail and rise and fight again. She's not trying to fit anyone else's idea of what a player should be. She's building her own archetype, resilient, faith-filled, fireborn. Her story isn't finished. Not even close. There are still games to win. Still goals to reach. Still young girls watching her and learning that it's okay to take up space, to walk loudly, to want more. But even if she walked away today, Sophie Cunningham has already built something unforgettable. She's not just playing the game. She's changing it. And if her journey moved you, if it reminded you of someone you love, or someone you used to be, then don't let that go. Like this story. Share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe for more voices that refuse to be silenced. Because what Sophie Cunningham teaches us isn't just how to shoot or defend. She teaches us how to show up, loud, proud, and ready for anything. And that kind of legacy, it doesn't fade. It spreads.